How long does a person stay alive after being guillotined? A guillotine is an apparatus designed for efficiently carrying out executions by beheading. The device consists of a tall, upright frame with a weighted and angled blade suspended at the top. The condemned person is secured with stocks at the bottom of the frame, positioning the neck directly below the blade. The blade is then released, swiftly and forcefully decapitating the victim with a single, clean pass so that the head falls into a basket or other receptacle below. The guillotine is best known for its use in France, in particular during the French Revolution, where the revolution's supporters celebrated it as the people's avenger and the revolution's opponents vilified it as the preeminent symbol of the violence of the Reign of Terror. While the name guillotine dates from this period, similar devices had been in use elsewhere in Europe over several centuries. But what made the guillotine special was the use of an oblique blade and the stocks. The display of severed heads had long been one of the most common ways European sovereigns exhibited their power to their subjects. Decapitation, also known as beheading, is the total separation of the head from the body. Such an injury is invariably fatal to humans and most other animals, since it deprives the brain of oxygenated blood, while all other organs are deprived of the involuntary functions that are needed for the body to function. The term beheading refers to the act of deliberately decapitating a person, either as a means of murder or as an execution. It may be accomplished with an axe, a sword, a knife, a machete, or by mechanical means such as a guillotine or chainsaw. An executioner who carries out executions by beheading is sometimes called a headsman. Accidental decapitation can be the result of an explosion, a car or industrial accident, improperly administered execution by hanging or other violent injury. Suicide by decapitation is rare but not unknown. The national laws of Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Qatar permit beheading. However, in practice, Saudi Arabia is the only country that continues to behead its offenders regularly as a punishment for crime. Less commonly, decapitation can also refer to the removal of the head from a body that is already dead. This might be done to take the head as a trophy, for public display, to make the deceased more difficult to identify, for cryonics, or for other, more esoteric reasons. Humans have practiced capital punishment by beheading for millennia. The Narmer Palette 3000 BCE shows the first known depiction of decapitated corpses. The terms capital offense, capital crime, capital punishment, derive from the Latin caput, head, referring to the punishment for serious offenses involving the forfeiture of the head. Death by beheading. Some cultures, such as ancient Rome and Greece, regarded decapitation as the most honorable form of death. Many European nations continue to reserve the method only for nobles and royalty. In France, the French Revolution made it the only legal method of execution for all criminals regardless of class, one of the period's many symbolic changes. Others have regarded beheading as dishonorable and contemptuous, such as the Japanese troops who beheaded prisoners during World War II. In recent times, It has become associated with terrorism. If the headsman's axe or sword was sharp and his aim was precise, decapitation was quick and was presumed to be a relatively painless form of death. If the instrument was blunt or the executioner was clumsy, multiple strokes might be required to sever the head, resulting in a prolonged and more painful death. The person to be executed was therefore advised to give a gold coin to the headsman to ensure that he did his job with care. Robert Devereux, 2nd Earl of Essex, and Mary, Queen of Scots required 3 strikes at their respective executions. The same could be said for the execution of Johann Friedrich Struensee, favorite of the Danish Queen Caroline Matilda of Great Britain. Margaret Pole, 8th Countess of Salisbury, is said to have required up to 10 strokes before decapitation was achieved. To ensure that the blow would be fatal, executioners' swords usually were blade-heavy two-handed swords. Likewise, if an axe was used, it almost invariably was wielded with both hands. In England, a bearded axe was used for beheading, with the blade's edge extending downwards from the tip of the shaft. Finland's official beheading axe resides today at the Museum of Crime in Vantaa. It is a broad-bladed two-handed axe. It was last used when murderer Tavo Putkonen was executed in 1825, the last execution in peacetime in Finland. Early versions of the guillotine included the Halifax gibbet, which was used in Halifax, England, from 1286 until the 17th century, and the maiden, employed in Edinburgh from the 16th through the 18th centuries. The modern form of the guillotine was invented shortly before the French Revolution with the aim of creating a quick and painless method of execution requiring little skill on the part of the operator. Decapitation by guillotine became a common mechanically assisted form of execution. The French observed a strict code of etiquette surrounding such executions. A man named Legros, one of the assistants at the execution of Charlotte Corday, was imprisoned for 3 months and dismissed for slapping the face of the victim after the blade had fallen in order to see whether any flicker of life remained. The guillotine was used in France during the French Revolution and remained the normal judicial method in both peacetime and wartime into the 1970s. Although the firing squad was used in certain cases, France abolished the death penalty in 1981. The guillotine was also used in Algeria before the French relinquished control of it. Another guillotine existed in Vatican City until recent years. It had been brought in by Napoleon's forces during the early 19th century, and, as of 1870, the Pope still claimed the authority to use it. The Holy See has since abolished capital punishment within its own jurisdiction, and recent popes have condemned capital punishment wherever it is still practiced. Ever since the guillotine's first use, there has been debate as to whether or not the guillotine provided as swift and painless a death as Guillotin had hoped. With previous methods of execution that were intended to be painful, few expressed concern about the level of suffering that they inflicted. However, because the guillotine was invented specifically to be more humane, The issue of whether or not the condemned experiences pain has been thoroughly examined and has remained a controversial topic. While certain eyewitness accounts of guillotine executions suggest anecdotally that awareness may persist momentarily after decapitation, there has never been true scientific consensus on the matter. Thank you for watching Death Row. Thank you to all my supporters, especially the new subscribers.